You belong on every ground your feet grace, so don't ever feel out of place. Take up space and belong. This earth is your birthplace. Hey loves, welcome back to the Sensual Genius channel. In this video, I'm going to do a review of Violet Evergarden, which is a romance anime that I watched on Netflix. In episode 1, Violet is remembering a moment she shared with Major Gilbert when she saw a charm that looked like his blue eyes. She recognizes the way he makes her feel. Then she wakes up in a hospital bandaged up, not remembering how she got there. She immediately writes a letter telling him that she was ready to return to her post. Lieutenant Hodgins remembers how he found her under the rubble after the war. Violet asks about Major Gilbert to see if he was still alive. Lieutenant Hudgens lies that Major Gilbert is still alive. Violet goes to get her stuff and the emerald brooch is missing. The emerald brooch is a gift that Major Gilbert's bought her. Lieutenant Hodgins tells her that Major ordered her to go with him, so she does. She has a flashback of the Major while she's looking out into the sea. He takes Violet to the Evergarden house and tries to leave her, but he ends up taking her to his company to be a postman. Hodges sees Violet delivering mail and stopped her to make her eat because she had been delivering mail all day and she hadn't stopped because Violet is used to, she's a soldier, so she's used to taking orders. She's not used to living like a normal civilian. So if you want her to do something, you have to tell her to do it, and you have to be specific about what you want her to do in order for her to do it. Otherwise, if you tell her to do one thing, she's going to do that for the rest of the day. So he sees her still delivering mail when it's late, so he stops her and makes her go eat. Then he takes her somewhere so she could stay, since she wasn't capable of staying at the Evergarden house. While Violet is cleaning the walls, a man comes in and asks her to write a letter for him. She asked him what she should write. He began telling her what he wanted to say, but she didn't know how to convey the message, so she took him to an auto memory doll. After the doll was successful in conveying I love you for the client, Violet asked her how she knows that that's what he wanted to say, and she said she just knew. Violet goes to Hodgins and tells him she wanted to be an auto memory doll so she could understand what I love you means. It's the first time Violet has her own will, so he obliges because he feels guilty for her having to fight in the war. That's why he allows it. In episode 2, Major Gilbert's brother gave Violet to him as a gift. This is a flashback where Major Gilbert's brother gave Violet to him as a gift. Violet gets trained to be and in the next scene, Violet gets trained to be an auto memories doll. They teach her how to type. Then they take a break and eat lunch, and Iris isn't happy about her job. Iris also doesn't like Violet and is jealous of Catalea. Violet is busy, so all of them are named after flowers. Violet is busy practicing, so she doesn't want to take a break. She asks to take the typewriter to her room. She asks Hodgins if she can get an address to send Major Gilbert a letter. In the next scene, she is sitting with Iris to watch her work, but she's socially awkward because she's so blunt. A client gets mad at Erica for writing a letter he doesn't like. Violet roughs him up for being aggressive toward Erica. And the client complains about her because Violet is basically neurodivergent. When I see this movie, it just reminds me of me and one of my friends who is neurodivergent, who kind of like, I understand emotions. I can articulate my emotions, uh, and I understand emotions, but I don't feel them. If that makes sense, I don't actually feel them. If that makes sense. At least not most of the time. Sometimes I'm able to, but a lot of the times when I feel emotions is when it's like fictional people. But if it's real people, like, I don't I don't be really feeling it. I don't really know why it is the way that is, but that's kind of how it is. But she just reminds me of a neurodivergent person who, we understand what emotions are. We understand the difference between the different emotions. We have emotions, but I feel like we articulate and express them differently from everybody else. And I feel like that's how Violet is. If you tell her, if you go to her and give her directions of what you want her to do, she is literally going to do what you say. She's not going to read between the lines. She's not going to try to figure out what you mean by, there's no hidden meaning to her. She's going to take what you say. She's going to take your exact words, and that's what she's going to focus on. She doesn't know how to figure out what's behind the emotions and what you actually mean, even though you said this. I'm capable of figuring out that, but I feel like it came from me people watching for so long, because I was so different from everybody else. So I would just sit back and just watch people and just kind of process the things that they would do, the things that they would say, and then like the behaviors that follow it. And when I was little, it was so hard for it to click to me why people would say certain things but mean something else. And I remember my mama just telling me that, like, that's just kind of the way that it is. Like, and I used to think that people were stupid for that. Like, y'all stupid. Why don't you just say how you feel rather than say one thing when you feel another, or say one thing when you mean another, and then expect somebody to understand what you actually mean rather than what you say. Like, as a kid, that I couldn't wrap my head around that, but it wasn't until I started paying attention to people and like how they would, the things that they would say and their actions, to kind of determine the hidden meaning behind things, if that makes sense. And I feel like with Violet, it's hard for her to do that because she's not used to being around civilians, and she was taught not to have emotions and not to care about her emotions, to just fight. So that's all she knows how to do. So it's a struggle for her. The client complains about her because, like I said, she is coming off neurodivergent, which that's not the word that they use, because of course I don't think that that's what they were trying to convey, but that's what I got. That's how I perceived it. Violet writes her first letter since Erica can't, and the client hates it. She reads the letter back, and it's hilarious to me because she's writing exactly what the people are saying, but not what they mean. But in the writing, the letters are supposed to be about the feelings they're trying to convey, but she doesn't understand feelings. She just understand, like, she understands command. So if you give her a command, she understands what you want her to do, but she don't understand the why behind it. She doesn't even ask that question. She doesn't understand like what emotions you're tapping into to say these things. Violet sees a man that looks like the major, but it's not him. She asks Erica if she's fit to be an Auto Memories doll, and Erica tells her no and asks her why she wants to do it in the first place. She finally tells Erica why she wants to be a doll. She says she wants to work there until she knows what I love you mean. They walk in on Iris telling Hodgins that the job isn't suited for Violet. Erica admits that she's the one who isn't suited for the job, but meeting Violet helps her remember her dream to write beautiful letters that can move people's hearts. Hodgins gives Violet a new dress and he found the brooch that Major Gilbert bought her. Violet signs up for a class to improve as an auto memories doll. Hodgins admits to Catalea that the Major isn't coming back, and it goes off right there. Violet goes to her first day of auto memories doll school. The teacher seems strict, but Violet is enthusiastic about being there because this is her type of element. Ooh, she has a boss, she has a superior. Somebody is over her, giving her orders and telling her what to do, and that's her element. She likes taking orders from somebody because that's all she knows. Violet is devoted to learning and is inspiring one of the other girls, Luculia. Violet is already excelling at the class. She decides to write her letter to Hodgins. The teacher gives them an assignment to write a letter, and she decides to write her letter to Hodgins, but she still doesn't grasp the concept of the letters yet. So hers sound more like a report. So I can't even remember the word in which I'm thinking about using, how she writes. But it's not heartfelt, it's not emotional or anything like that. The teacher makes Violet read the letter to her to teach her how to communicate a person's true feelings, and tells her she can't call the letter she wrote a letter. Luculia takes Violet to see the best view of the city and Violet remembers the Major telling her that he hopes that one day she's able to see that same view. Violet fears she may not be able to become an admirable doll. 9 girls graduate from the program, but Violet doesn't. Luculia does, though. Luculia meets Violet at school to write a letter for the Major to help her understand feelings, but Violet doesn't know what she wants to say to him. Luculia tells Violet her story, and Violet offers to write a letter to express her feelings to her brother, but Luculia runs out because she's not able to because it's too much for her. However, Violet writes it for her and gives it to her brother. She's finally able to convey Luculia's feelings. Luculia shows the instructor the letter that Violet wrote, and Violet gets to graduate. In episode 4, Iris gets requested to write a letter, but she has to go to her hometown to do it. Violet gets sent with her since she hurt her arm during a fall. Iris doesn't understand Violet because she's mostly logical and doesn't perceive the world like anyone else. Violet is so elegant and pretty even though she isn't trying. It turns out that Iris's mom requested her for the letter so they could see her. Her family missed her and wanted to see her, so they requested for her to come and write a letter for them so they could see her. They want her to write an invitation for Iris' party. They want Violet to write an invitation for Iris' party, but the guest list only has men so they can marry her off. So they're secretly trying to marry Iris off. Iris tells her not to send it to this guy or whatever that she didn't want to come, but Violet doesn't listen to her because Iris is not the client. Iris is just supposed to be helping her, or Violet is helping Iris write the letter, but Iris is not the client, so Violet doesn't listen to her. At the party, Iris's mom tries to make her care about the guys that showed up. The guy she didn't want Violet to invite showed up, and she's sad. Violet doesn't understand why she didn't want to send the invitation, and she finally tells her it's because she was rejected by the guy before. Violet tells her family what Iris shared with her, and Iris gets mad. Violet apologizes for not understanding her feelings. Iris tells them the full story of her rejection by Amon. Violet finally tells Iris why she wants to be an Auto Memories doll, and it encourages her. She asks Violet to send an apology letter to the people that showed up to her party, and Violet encourages her to write one to her parents to tell them how she feels as well. She does, and asks her parents to give her more time to be a doll. They leave and go back to Leiden. Iris tells Violet she wrote a good letter. This is kind of like her way of accepting Violet and encouraging her, even though at first she didn't like Violet because Violet was too logical and not emotional enough for her. Iris tells her she was named after the flower, and Violet has a flashback of Major Gilbert giving her her name when they first met. In episode 5, Hodgins is talking to a man in the military about a way to end the war officially. Violet gets a job writing for Princess Charlotte to express her supposed love for the prince she is supposed to marry to end the war. Charlotte gets mad at Violet for not having experience with love or romance. And this is a little girl, by the way. She's like in her a young teenage girl, so she shouldn't have experience with love or romance either. She actually doesn't have experience with love or romance. This is, I think, her first relationship. They read Violet's letter and loves it. The princess is impressed. Violet recognizes that the princess isn't satisfied. So she tells her the story about how she met Prince. So the princess tells Violet the story about how she met Prince Damien. She's actually happy to marry him, but she's afraid he isn't happy since they're 10 years apart. Like, she's literally a young girl, and this person is like in their 20s. She's also nervous about how they'll treat her over there. Violet uses her connections to get a direct reply from him and made arrangements for it to be like that from then on. They write each other back and forth. Everyone around the castle is invested in their love story. They're reading the letters because they get them published in the paper or they read them out loud. The two of them meet in the garden and he asks her to marry him. Of course she says yes. The two of them get ready to get married. Princess Charlotte says goodbye to her maid Alberta. Violet goes back to Leiden and is greeted by a man who is angry at her for killing his comrades and then getting a job writing letters that brings people together. In episode 6, the Auto Memories dolls pair with the transcription staff members to preserve manuscripts. Violet is paired with Leon, who seems to be intrigued with her at first sight. Violet is keeping up with him to his surprise. They complete 3 days worth of work, I think in like a day. He asks her why she chose to become an Auto Memories doll, and she said it was a role given to her, but questions whether she's worthy of the role. Some people are trying to talk down on Leon, but Violet defends him. Like, they're like literally approaching her, telling her that he's not a good person or whatever, and she defends him, and she basically tells him, well, he didn't do that to me. Like, I didn't see that, so I don't know what y'all talking about. He overhears it and he realizes that they have a lot of things in common. Leon is trying to convince Violet to see Allie's comment and she agrees. He gives her a time and place, but it seems like he's low-key asking her on a date. They both show up to see the comet. He asked her about the things the guy said about him and told her it was true. Then he tells her his story. He's jaded about love. Violet mentions the major, and he helps her understand what loneliness feels like. He asks her if she would go and try to save that person if someone said they were in danger. She tells him that that person is life itself, and if they didn't exist, she wouldn't want to live. Basically talking about the major, basically saying the major is life her itself to her, and if he didn't exist, she wouldn't want to live. He tells her she didn't look like the type who'd say stuff like that. And he asks her if she's in love with him, but she turns his attention back to the comet. The next morning he tells her he's going to travel the world like she does and hopes to meet her again one day. He seems to be in love with her, and he promises not to hesitate because she gave him the courage to move forward. So through being an auto memories doll, Violet is making connections with people, sharing her story, hearing their story, and inspiring them in some way and getting inspired by them. So she's learning what different emotions are and like how to name her feelings and her emotions by listening to their stories. In episode 7, Catalea asks Hodgins if he's spoken to Violet about the major yet, and he tells her no. Violet is hired by an alcoholic who she asks to refrain from drinking, but he won't. He seems to be depressed. She ends up having to clean his room so they could have a better writing environment. He sends her to the store to pick up some things, and she cooks for him after telling him she isn't a maid. She hides his alcohol and tells him it's not good for his health. Then they finally write the stage play that he hired her to write. Violet identifies with the character in his play. The writer gets choked up when Violet finds a parasol. Then he gets angry with her for playing with it. She asks him if he's hiding something in his heart, and he finally tells her about his daughter who died. I think she ended up getting sick and dying. Violet cries for the first time because of his story. Her tears make him want to finish the story. He asks her to act out a scene where she jumps over the lake like his daughter wanted to. She does it and is almost successful, making him have flashbacks and shed tears for his dead daughter. Violet is finally able to understand loss. She goes back to the Evergarden house to apologize to Lady Evergarden. She tells her she thinks the Major would be proud of who she became after his death. Violet immediately confronts Hodgins about the Major's whereabouts, and he finally explains to her what really happened. She refuses to accept that he's dead since they never found his body, but Hodgins tells her she has to, and she runs away crying. So when she goes back to the Evergarden house, Lady Evergarden accidentally tells her that the Major is dead when she tells her that the Major would be proud of who she became after he died. But Lady Evergarden didn't know that Violet didn't know that the Major was dead. In episode 8, it shows Major Gilbert accepting Violet from his brother since he doesn't like how his brother treats her. Violet goes to see the captain to ask about the major. The captain is Major Gilbert's brother. He's shocked she didn't know and tells her she shouldn't be sad because she's just a tool. Like, you're not even supposed to have feelings because you're a tool. Like, are you kidding yourself? Catalea sends Hodgins after Violet, and it shows a flashback of Violet when she was young and Gilbert first gets her. He tries to tell the higher ups that Violet isn't ready to be on the front lines, but they won't listen to him. So he does what he's ordered to do, which is trains her to be a soldier. And she becomes an amazing soldier, amazing fighter. He's the only one who sees her as a human being. Violet is actually a good soldier. And like, she's like so good that that's the only thing that they want her to do. And that's how she becomes like she is. Violet goes back to the Evergarden house and asks for the major. They tell her he's dead. She's distraught. And in the flashback, it shows him teaching her how to read, how to speak, and how to write. It also shows why he brought her the brooch. She saw it when they were walking through what do they call it? Like a farmer's market type of thing. And she told him that it was the same color as his eyes. So he bought it for her because she was so enamored with it. You can tell Major Gilbert loved her, and he had regrets subjecting her to war. Gilbert sees Hodgins and offers him a job. This is in a flashback after the war, but he declines it. He joked about hiring Violet instead, and Gilbert said that might not be a bad idea. And I think that's why he ended up hiring Violet after Major Gilbert died, because Major Gilbert told him that that wasn't a bad idea when he told him what he was going to do. He was going to start a company. It shows the war, and also it shows how Gilbert died. They got caught in an ambush, and Violet basically takes control of the situation solely. They try to protect each other as much as they could. Gilbert ends up getting shot in the eye, and she screams after him. Then it goes off. In episode 9, Gilbert gets shot again, and Violet kills one of the men that shoots him, and the other one ran away. She ends up getting shot too, and a bomb was thrown at them, which is how her arms got blowed off. Yeah, she had to get her arms replaced with like this metal or whatever. I forgot what it's called. Major Gilbert tells Violet he loves her before throwing himself on top of her to save her life. Violet goes back to the site of his death because she can't let him go. Hodgins finds her and tells her the Major asked him to take care of her before the battle. Hodgins tells her she can live her life without needing his orders anymore, and she cries. They run into a roadblock and learn that the city was attacked, so they had to take another route back to Leiden. Catalea goes to check on Violet and brings her food, but Violet is shut up in her room. They're all worried about her, but Hodgins tells Catalea that Violet would have to decide who she is and what she wants on her own. She has a nightmare of the Major asking her if she was writing letters with the hands she used to kill people. Then she tried to strangle herself but couldn't. After the delivery man from the auto mail company come to deliver a letter to her, she goes to help him deliver the letters because I think he was behind on his letters, and she goes to help him deliver them. Then she reads the letter Erica and Iris wrote her. She gets a request from Luculia's brother and decides to write for him. It makes her realize how special it is to receive a letter, and she goes back to work. She goes to Hodgins to ask him if she has any right to be a doll or live since she has burns all over her body. He tells her she can't change the past, but everything she's done as an auto memories doll won't disappear either. Meaning, yeah, you've done some bad things in your life and you can't take it back. However, you also have done some good things, and those good things will also be remembered just like those bad things, and sometimes they may even overshadow the bad things. In episode 10, Violet goes to write a letter for a sick woman, but the woman falls ill before she's able to write the letter. So Violet ends up playing and spending time with the lady's daughter. The little girl sees her mom crying after reading Violet's letter, so I assume that the letter that Violet wrote for the lady is for her daughter for when her mom dies. The little girl asks who Violet is writing to, and Violet tells her she can't tell her. Violet plays with her for the whole week. The little girl tells her she's not the one she wants to do things with. She wants to do it with her mom, but she feels Violet and everyone else is preventing that. Like, she feels that Violet is in the way of her spending time with her mother, but she really isn't. Like, her mother is really sick and she doesn't want the little girl to kind of stop her life to worry about her. The last collapse was the last collapse when Violet goes back to write. The lady collapsed when Violet goes back to write the letter. It's clear the letter is taking a lot out of her to write, and the little girl can see it. She begs her mom to stop writing it and to pay attention to her, and she tells her she knows if she's gone, she'll be left all alone, so she wants to spend as much time with her while she can. She clearly knows that her mom is dying, and they're not giving her credit because she's a child, and they're trying to keep it from her for as long as they can, because her mama wants to write these letters for her so she'll have something to remember her by. Violet asks the little girl not to be angry with her mother because the letter is for a good cause, and she tells her that she's a good person and it makes her cry. Violet tells her there's nothing that can be done about her mom's illness. Violet leaves after she's done with the letter. The little girl gives her a kiss on the cheek and realizes that she's not a real doll. And I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw this, I thought Violet was like a robot, but she's actually a real person. She finally gets to play with her mom until her mom dies. Then she gets the first letter her mother wrote her, and it makes her emotional. She wrote one for every birthday, and it turns out she wrote 50 for her, and it's bittersweet. Like, she wrote 50 letters for the little girl, and it's for each letter is for her birthdays. It's a bittersweet moment, and it makes Violet cry. She holds in her feelings until she gets back, though, and Catalea ensures her that the letters will reach the little girl whose name is Anne. In episode 11, Violet overhears Hodgins and Catalea talking about the war not being over and soldiers wanting auto memories dolls to write letters for them, but he isn't comfortable sending them. So Violet takes the envelope with the request and leaves. However, when she gets there, they aren't able to carry her because the location is a battlefield. But she convinces the auto delivery guy, the mail delivery guy, to carry her to the location in his airplane. They have to literally drop her down off the airplane. The soldiers get ambushed, but only 2 get away. One of them gets killed and the other gets shot. Violet jumps out of the plane and takes down the soldiers who shot and killed the other soldier. She asks them to stand down, and they do because one of them recognizes her. She saves the soldier who sent her the request. She tries to nurse him back to health, but he insists that she writes the letter. She writes one to his parents and one to his girlfriend and delivers it to her. The girl thanks her, but she apologizes for letting him die because she isn't able to save his life. He ends up dying. Um, Also, she went to the battlefield, but she went there not wanting to contribute to the war, so that's why she didn't kill the men. She just fought them, and because one of the guys recognized her, they backed off. Because she I ain't gonna say popular, but she's notorious, like infamous in war, because she was like an elite soldier. Violet is saddened by what happened, so in episode 12, Violet is saddened by what happened, so the mailman offers to take her to Leiden. Catalea and the guy she works with goes with the B Navy to do a peace treaty to end the war, and they're confronted by Major Gilbert's brother. She tells him Violet won't be coming. He asks about Violet, and she tells him Violet won't be coming, and he said it's for the best and calls her a sorry excuse for a human. They brag on Violet to shut him up. The guy transporting Violet shows her a railroad that's supposed to bring peace to the north and south. Then he shows her a bridge built for the same reason, but they see smoke from explosions. The anti-peace faction infiltrated the train with Catalea and them on it. She tells the captain what she sees and asks him to give her his orders, and he tells her to go. Violet gets on the train that the captain and her co-workers are on, and she tells him what she saw from the airplane, which she saw the people attacking the bridge and trying to stop them from doing the peace treaty. She asks him to give her orders, and he tells her to go. They enact their plans to destroy the envoy. Violet decides to help out anyway. The captain tells her she's just a tool, and she tells him she's not. He hands her a gun and tells her if he tells her to kill, she would, and she tells him that she wouldn't and says she doesn't need a weapon. Then she goes to subdue the soldier and is captured, but the captain saves her even though he's angry at her for his brother dying. That's why he keeps like coming at her sideways or whatever, because he's angry at her for letting his brother die. She tells him she wanted to save Major Gilbert, but he ended up saving her. And she also saves the captain's life when a soldier tries to kill him. And in the process, the soldier takes her brooch. In episode 13, the captain gets her brooch back, but the bomb is still active. He tells her to pull the emergency brake, but she can't, so she goes to get the bombs away from the train. She reaches one and tells her co-worker to get the other one. He kicks it off the bridge, and she finally pulls her up, and she finally pulls her end of the plan off, and her co-worker ends up having to catch her because she lost her other arm trying to get the bombs off the bridge. They're able to write the treaty. They're able to write the peace treaty, and Violet writes a letter for a father waiting for his son to come home from the war. Catalea tells Violet she's thinking about writing a letter to soldiers who lost their lives in the war, and suggests that Violet does the same. Violet has flashbacks of the Major telling her he doesn't see her as a tool. He takes accountability for treating her like a tool, though. Violet doesn't know what to write, but Hodgins encourages her to write anyway. The captain goes to get Violet to meet his mother. His mother has Alzheimer's, and she asks Violet about her relationship to Major Gilbert. Violet tells her that Major Gilbert took her in, and she tells Violet it wasn't her fault that he's dead and that he's alive in her heart. Violet breaks down and cries, and she is able to mourn Major Gilbert's death with his family, his mom and his brother, who is the captain. The mama says she still loves the Major even though he's dead, and Violet agrees. The captain tells her to live to honor his brother's memory. Those were his final orders to her. She tells him she no longer needs his orders. That's when he finally recognizes that she isn't just a tool. Violet is finally able to write her letter to Major Gilbert. She meets up with all of the Auto Memories dolls, and they all talk about who they wrote their personal letters to. Catalea reads Hodgins' letter out loud. Violet reads her letter to Gilbert and as she's traveling. She finally knows what I love you means. Violet gets a request and is happy about who it's from. And it goes off after she reintroduces herself, after finding herself and who she is, and deciding that she is going to live her life for herself. And I give Violet Evergarden a 10 out of 10. Like, it was a beautiful anime. Like, the animation is beautiful. Like, it's so beautiful. My brother said that it's too beautiful. But it's so beautiful that it's dreamlike, and it's like, it's so surreal, and it like heightens your whatever senses that that's different aesthetics trigger in us. But it's very beautifully drawn. It's beautifully written. It's a compelling story, and I love the fact that even though it's not necessarily about a romantic love, it's about the pursuit of love and finding out what love means, and discovering your emotions and accepting the things that makes you human, and our emotions being a huge part of that. But I enjoyed reading it. I love that it demonstrated the importance of understanding and embracing our emotions and the things that make us human. Because I think that was an important lesson, and I like the way that they taught us the lesson. But you can check out Violet Evergarden on Netflix. This one that I just review is the one from 2018, the one that came out in 2018. But there are also other ones on there that I'm also going to watch and review. It's a whole series or whatever. I think it's like maybe 1 or 2 movies, and it's like 2 episodic series on there. But I definitely think it's worth checking out, whether you like anime or not. As long as you're okay with watching animated series or whatever, I think that you would really like it. You can check it out on Netflix though. But thank you for watching this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about Violet Evergarden if you watched it. Let me know what you think about this review. If you haven't watched it and you went to watch it after seeing this review, let me know what you think. Yeah. And also, don't forget to turn on your notification bell so you can get notifications about new content. But thank you for watching, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye. Before you go, check out my website at srgraham.org and subscribe to my mailing list to get exclusive updates on works in progress, other news, and blog posts. Thank you.